Okay, welcome everyone. As we learn the incredible learning of Chok Yisrael, initiated by the great Arizal and finished the last two disciplines by the Holy Chidah, Zeichet Tzadikim U'Kedoshim Levrachas, Chusam Yorgan Aleinu, V'Al Klal Yisrael. And we are doing the Chok today for Metzora, Yom Shishi, the sixth day, Be'ezras Hashem. We start with the Mishnayos in Masechtas Olos. Now you have to know that when David HaMelech prayed that his Tehillim should be very powerful, he said, let the learning of my Tehillim be like the learning of Negoim and Oholos, because this was considered the most difficult parts of Shas. Masechtas Olos is extremely difficult. We catch a break. This parak is not so difficult. When we were doing the Chok in Bamidbar, we did a Mishnah. I remember that the Mishnah took me 45 minutes to do. That was a Chok that went over by an hour, I believe an hour and 20 minutes. That was a very, very difficult parak. This is not such a difficult parak, so you could rest easy. We know that Tumah, depending on how severe the Tumah is, it could be Metame only b'maga, upon contact. More severe Tumah is Metame b'masa, when we carry it, even we don't touch it. The most severe Tumah is Metame b'oil, that if it is under the same roof as you, you become Tameh. So the Mishnah opens up, remember the name of the Masechta is Oholos, Elu Metamin b'oil. The following have a severe Tumah that if it's under the same roof as you, you become Tameh. Hameis, if it's a corpse, or Kizayis min hameis, or if it's an olive-sized piece of a corpse, Kizayis netzel, if it's decayed flesh of a corpse that made a gel, and there's a kazayas of that gel, or malay tarvid rekev, or if there's a ladle full of dust of deteriorated mace, if there is a kazayas of corpse dust, as it is called, hashidra, or the spinal cord of a corpse, vagilgailis, or the skull, an aver min hameis, a limb of a dead body, even if it doesn't have a kazayas of flesh on it, or the aver min achai, a limb of a living person that was amputated, sheyesh aleim boser kuroi, that there is upon it enough flesh that if it would be alive, it would heal and regenerate, even if it's less than a kazayas. Roiva atzamis, if it's a quarter of a cab of bones, meiroiva binyan oy meiroiva minyan, but it's not coming from the majority of the skeletal structure or the majority of the bones in the body, which we will see is 125, but it's a quarter of a cab of bone, that is going to convey tumas oil. V'roiv binyana v'roiv minyana shalmeis, or if you have bone, which is the majority of the skeletal frame, which is 2 legs and 1 thigh, even if it's not 125, or v'roiv minyana shalmeis, or it's the majority of the bones of a mace, since it's 248, 125 is the majority. Afal pi, even though she'ein b'hem roiva, even though it's not a quarter of a kav, tamein. Kamahu roiv minyonai, what's the majority of the bones? May of eser mechamisha, 125. Now also, what's metame in oil is a revius dam, a quarter of a lug of blood, and even revius dam tfusa mimeis echad, even a quarter of a kav of draining blood. Now, draining blood is blood that came out when the person is dying. So some of it while he was still alive, and some of it was after death. It combines, now this is only drabanan, because since part of the blood his blood while he was alive, really midorais, it wouldn't be metame. But the Rabbanan say that dam tavusa, the lifeblood that comes out, where some of it was when he was alive and some of it is after death, combines to be metame ba'ayil. Only if it's from mace echad, if this is only blood from one mace. The Rabbanan hold that blood from two maceim do not combine. Rabbi Kiva Aimer Mishnei Mason. Rabbi Kiva says even the blood from two mason combined to give you the minimum share that it's metame with a quarter of lug, it's metame ba'oil. Dam cotton sheyotze kulai, the blood of a child that all of its blood drained out, even though it's less than a quarter of a calf. Rabbi Kiva Aimer Kosher. Rabbi Kiva says since it's the full blood of the child, it has its own identity, even though it's less than a quarter of a lug. No, even then, the shear is a revius. Now, what about if the corpse decomposed and you have worms? So, kazayas rima, if you have a kazayas of worms, Bain chaya, whether it's from a live limb that was cut off, bain mesa, or a dead limb, Rabbi Eliezer metame kibisara. He says since those worms are generated from the decomposed flesh, they are also metame. The chachamim metarim. The chachamim say no, they're not the corpse. They're worms. Worms are not metame ba'ayil. What if, God forbid, a body is cremated? Efer srufim, if it's ash from a cremated body, Rebbe Eliezer shi'uroi kerova. The shear is that a quarter of a calf of that ash is treated like bones, and it's metame ba'ayil. The chachams say ash is not metame. Meloi sarvoid v'oid offer kvaros. If you have a ladle full plus of decomposed corpse dust mixed with the plaster in the grave, tame, because we say that if it's more than a melot tarvet, you have at least a ladle full of corpse material. Rabbi Shimon Matar, Rabbi Shimon says that if it's not pure corpse dust, but it's adulterated with the plaster, it's not metame. Meloi sarvid rekev shegvoloi b'mayim. If you have a ladle full of corpse dust that was kneaded with water to make it into one attached. See, normally corpse dust is granulated, so it's not attached. But you kneaded it so it became one clump, and part of it is under the roof and part of it is outside. Now normally if you have a shear and part of it is inside and part of it is outside, it is metame ba'ayil. But here, since in its normal state it's granulated, even if you knead it with water, ain chibur l'tumah. It doesn't connect it, that if part of it is outside and part of it is under the roof, we don't say it combines to be metame ba'ayil. Now, elu mitamim b'maga u'b'masa, the following contaminate b'maga u'b'masa upon contact and upon carrying it, ve'enon mitamim ba'ayil. They're not metame if it's under the roof. Etzem kisaira, a bone the size of a barley corn. It's metame if you touch it, metame if you carry it, but it's not metame if it's under the roof. The eretz amim, an earth that came from the diaspora. You see, there were geyser tumah on earth from the diaspora because they were geyser tumah from the earth from the diaspora because there they didn't mark the graves, so all that earth is suspect of having bones in it. So it's not metame ba'oil. if you bring it into Eretz Yisrael, it's not matami ba'oil. Or beis hapras. This is an area where they ground up a grave. They didn't know there was a grave there, and they plowed it. So we say that 100 amas in each direction is a beis hapras, and we're suspect that it has bone fragments. So that's matami b'maga b'masa, but not ba'oil. Avim in a mace, ve'avim in a chai, or a limb from a corpse, or a limb from a live person, she'ein alein basar kurai, it doesn't have enough flesh upon it that if you would, it would be on a living person, it would regenerate. So that's matama b'maga b'masa, but not under the roof. Hashedra v'agilgailas, a spine or a skull, shechasru, that's defective. It's matame b'maga b'masa, but not b'oil. Kamahu chisaron b'shedra. What constitutes being defective by a spine? Beishamayim shtei chulyas, if it's missing 2 vertebrae, or beisalayim afilu chulya echas, even 1 vertebrae. Or galgulas. What about a skull? What's considered defective? That it's not matame b'oil. Beishamayim kamali magdeach. The amount of that would be drilled with a drill. The amount is if it would be missing from a live person, the person would die. Now, according to Beis Shammai, it says the shear is the amount taken by a drill. Amru, what kind of drill is it talking about? The cotton shel roifim, the surgeon's drill, divir meir. The chachamim no bagadol shel lishka, the large drill used for construction in the chamber in the temple. Now, we're introduced now to the terminology of golel and dofek. Now, what's a golel and a dofek? So the golel is the stone that covers the mouth of the tomb. The dofek is the 2 supporting walls that hold that stone. Hagolel v'adofek, the golel, the tombstone cover, and the dofek, the side supports of that tombstone, mitamim b'maga u'ba'oil. It's mitame upon contact, and it's mitame if you're under the same roof as it. From a pasuk, we learn out of Gzeres HaKosav that it's ein mitamim b'masa. It wouldn't be tame if you picked it up without touching it. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer mitamim b'masa. It is mitame even if you carry it. Rabbi Yeshua Aimer im yesh tachteyan offer kvarais. If underneath them is the earth of the grave, mitame mamasa. It's mitame if you pick it up. The imlav, if not, eina mitame mamasa. It's not mitame if you pick it up. Now, ezo adoifik. Let's get the definition of these terms. They're used all over Shas, these terms, so it's good to know the definition. Ezo hadoifik. What's a doifik? Es shagoylel nishan olav. The doifik is that which the tomb cover rests upon. Aval doifik doifkin, but the support of the tomb support, in other words, the doifik is the 2 side supports of the tomb cover. That which supports the support, that's tar. That's not tummy. That's too far away. That's not tummy. Elu, the following, sh'im chasru tahirim. The following, if they are deficient, are tar. Kezayis min mace, an olive-sized piece of corpse. If it's deficient, it's tar. Or a kezayis netzel, an olive-sized amount of corpse gel. If it's deficient, it's tar. Or malay sarvid rekev, or a ladle full of corpse dust. Or revias dam, or a quarter of a lug of blood. The etzem kisaira, or a bone the size of a barley corn. The avim and achai shechoser atzmai, or a limb from a living person that lacks some of its bone, it's completely tar. Now, Mishnah Vav tells us, Hashedra v'agilgailas, the spine and the skull, mishnei mesim, that you put together from two bodies, or revias dam mishnei mesim, or a quarter of lug of blood from two bodies, or roiva atzamais mishnei mesim, or a quarter of cams of bones from two bodies, the avim and ameis mishnei mesim, or a limb from a dead body that you put together from two bodies, the avim and achai mishnei anoshim, or a limb that you put together from two living people. Rabbi Kiva metame. Rabbi Kiva says you could combine from two corpses. The chachamim metarim, and the chachamim say you cannot, and it's tar. Etzem ki'sa'ira shenechlak l'shnayim. If you have a bone the size of a barley corn that's split into two, Rabbi Kiva metame. Rabbi Kiva says if you pick them both up in your hand, since you're picking up on etzem kisaira, because you're picking them both up, he holds it's tamei. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri mitar. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says if it's not one whole bone, but rather pieces, they don't combine, and it's tar. And Rabbi Yochanan brings a raya. He says it says etzem kisaira. It doesn't say atsamais kisaira. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, atsamais kisaira, bones the size of a barley corn. Ela etzem kisaira, a bone the size of a barley corn. Two halves do not combine. Roiva atzamis shenidaktiku, a quarter of a kav of bone that was crushed. Ve'ein b'chol echad ve'echad etzem kisaira, and they're crushed to the point that none of the bones have a amount of a barley corn. Reb Shimon metar. Reb Shimon says that it's tar. The chachamim metam. The chachamim say since you have in totality a quarter of a kav, even though it's granulated, it is metame. Eva min achai shenechlek l'shnayim, a limb from a living person that was divided in half, tar. Rabbi Yaisi metame. Rabbi Yaisi says that since it was originally complete, so even if it's cut in half, it's metame. Umayda sheim nitel chatzayim, that when if it was amputated piecemeal, so that it was never right to be metame, shehu tar, that then it is tar. And now we learn, since this is the day of Taras, the Gemara that we have from Taras is Masechtas Nida, so therefore the Gemara section we learn is from the Masechtas Nida. And we said over there, one of the ways to determine if blood is tamei is we take clay from the region of Beis Kerem. Beis Kerem had reddish clay, and we put that reddish clay in water, and if the blood looks like that reddish clay, then that's dam nida. So ibayilhu. And the Gemara says that when you put it in, you have to stir it. It shouldn't be clear, but rather it should be muddied. So now the Gemara asks, when you stir it, what do you stir it with? Ibaylu. Ein oichun oisam b'yad ela b'keli. It says that you don't stir it with your hand, but rather with a utensil. What does that mean? Does it mean delo lirme biyadei v'lakrinu, that you shouldn't put the water in your hand and then mix the clay in your hand? Avabamana, rather you should put the water in a utensil and put the clay in, but then that, if you want to stir it with your hand, that's allowed. Ki achalei biyadei shaperdami. If you, as long as you don't hold it with your hand, you put it in a keli, you could stir it with your finger. Or dilma, maybe it means that you put it in a keli, and you shouldn't stir it with your hand, but stir it with a utensil. Or dilma delay la akrinu biyadei, you shouldn't stir it with your hand, elabamana. So tajma, so the Gemara says, kishu baitkan, when you do the investigation, ein baitkin elabikais. You don't put the clay in water held by your hand, but you put it in a vessel and put the reddish clay from Beis Kerem in the vessel. So the Gemara says, but still we have a question. Vadayin tibayalach, yet we still have a question. Bedika bekais achira b'mai. We know that we've established that you should put the clay in a vessel, but still, what do you stir it with? Do you stir it? Can you stir it with your finger, or do you have to stir it with a vessel? Take your tishbi atas kushazimais. We don't know. We have to ask Mashiach. Ki also the kami de Rabba bar Avua, another halacha, when they came before Rabba bar Avua, amalahu b'mekayma shaninum. The only way this works, this comparative study works, is only if you take the clay at the clay pit in Beis Kerem and put it in the water right there. If you take it away from there and do the test elsewhere, it might change its properties and it's no good. It's only good in its place. Now, the Zohar today is an extremely esoteric Zohar. It says, Zohar es Yom HaShabbos. You should remember the Shabbos day, Lekatchay. So the Zohar says the word Zohar doesn't only mean to remember. Of course, we fulfill remembering the Shabbos day by making Kiddush. We fulfill the mitzvah of Zohar es Yom HaShabbos Lekatchay when we remember Shabbos during the week and buy things for the benefit of Shabbos. It's a mitzvah to say that today is the first day towards Shabbos, because when we call Sunday the first day towards Shabbos, we're remembering the Shabbos. However, the Zohar says, in its esoteric way, Zohar is Roza de Dechura Ihu. Zohar means a masculine, male. So that's the secret of the masculine, which is the Zer Anpin, the Svirais. Roza de Dechura, the secret of Zer Anpin, Dinokit Kol Shaifei de Almi Ilah, which contains all the angles of the upper realm. Now then it says, Es Yom HaShabbos. What is Es coming to include? La'aska Male Shabsa, to include Friday evening. The Iu Laila, that is the night, which is the Bechina of Malchus, the Bechina of the Shechina HaKadosha. V'do Es, and Es means Lekacha, you have to sanctify it. The Itzrik Kedusha Migo Ama Kadisha, it needs to be sanctified by the holy nation, Ulis Aturbu Kedechazi, and to crown it as it is proper. So we have to know that Zer Anpin is a place where there is no forgetfulness. And that's why it's called Zohar. Zohar, Aser de Leslei Shikha. There's no forgetfulness. V'loi kaime bei Shikha. This is the meaning of Ein Shikha lefnei kisei kvadecha. The less Shikha ba'aser de bris ilah. There is no forgetfulness by the place of the celestial bris, which is the midah of Yisoid. V'kol shchein la'ela, and surely above Yisoid, the midah of Bina, there is no forgetfulness. But ulisata below, by the Bechina of Malchus, is shikha. There is forgetfulness. Asa de itzrich la'atkira. There we have to do reminding. Valdok siv, and that's why it says in Tehillim, Yezocher avoin avoisav. He will remember the sins of the ancestors. The istamon mimanon, and therefore below there are those that are appointed. The akron that bring up the memory of Zachian the Barnash, of the merits of people, the chovoi, and their guilt. However, v'les shikha kamei krisaya kadisha. Right? There is no shikha before the heavenly throne. That's ein shikha lefnei kisei kvodecha. Ma de iu kamei. that which is in front of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Oman iu kamei, and what is it that is before Hashem? That's Zohar. That is the Zer Anpin, the Sheish Sfiros. That's Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hoid, and Yesaid. V'kol shkein la'ela, and of course above that, which is the Midah of Bina. Begin the Kula Rosa de Dechura Ihu. That is all the secret of the Zachris, of the masculine. V'stamon Isklef Rosa de Shma Kadisha Yeho. And there is imprinted the secret of the name Yud Hey Vav, where there is no forgetfulness. Ulisata, but below Itztrich Iskacha, we need to do the sanctifying. Obama Iskadish, what do we sanctify? Bizochar, we sanctify it with this command of Zochar Es Yom HaShabbos, and we do it. Dahaminei Notel, from it is taken once we sanctify it, what does it become sanctified from? B'zachar. It comes sanctified from, we bring down the midah of Yesod. Minei notul kol kiddushin v'chol birchon. From it, we derive all holiness and all blessings. V'dah, and therefore, kadmis atre male shapsa, when we have the crowning on Friday night, al ama kadisha kedikayos, by the holy nation as is proper, bitzloisa with prayers, ubabausan with requests, ubisidura the chedva, and the Friday night meal with joy. Now, you might say that this is only in the night, which is the Bechina of Malchus, which needs the sanctification. But the day, which is the manifestation of Zohar, of the Zer Anpin, v'itema Zohar lo itztrich liskacha, it doesn't need our sanctification. Daminei nafkin kol kiddushin alma, because from Zer Anpin emanates all of the holiness of the world. Lav hachi. It's not true. Da itztrich liskacha b'yamama. You have to sanctify during the day. And we have a day meal, and we make kiddush during the day. V'da itztrich liskacha b'lelia, and the din is that which we sanctify in the night, the midah of Yesod, we need to bring down during the day as well. The kol kiddushin not l'on Yisrael lebasar. All of the holiness Klal Yisrael gets as an after effect of that which they are mekadesh, so they bring down the kedusha even from the midah of Yesod during the day, even from the spheres during the day. The iskadish b'kedusha, and then the iskachin, they're sanctified with the holiness, the Kutcha Berichu, of the Celestial One. So even during the day, which represents the Sheish Sfiris, and we might think that there it's automatic and we don't have to do it ourselves, we still have to be, as we call it, we have to be misorer, we have to awaken that which is above to shower down upon us below. Now, the Musar from Rabbeinu Yaina, which is so appropriate during Aseres Mei Tshuva, which we're learning now, Me'ikreat Tshuva, from the very essence of Tshuva, is hachnia, being submissive, b'choleiv, with all of our heart, v'ashiflis, a feeling of lowliness because of our sin. Ki amakeres boyreit, one who recognizes his creator, yoda kama tzarech ha'over al devarav, he recognizes how much a person who transgresses the commands, liyai shach, he has to feel downtrodden, v'shafel, he has to feel low, v'nigra me'erkai, and feel a diminishment of his value. Ke'inyan shnema nivez be'enav, he feels disgraced in his own eyes, and nimas, and detested. V'nemar afki nisav v'nelach, even though I am abominable in the eyes of Hashem, and the pasuk is talking about even malachim are abominable and feeling unvalued. Kesef nimus karu lahem, they're considered like polluted money. Al kain yikana, therefore a person should humble himself. V'yiyeh shafal be'enav, and feel lowly in his eyes. V'davar HaMelech olav hashalom b'svadoisai al chetoi, when he was confessing his sin with Bathsheba, b'boyei lov Nasan HaNavi, when Nasan HaNavi came to him, Amar b'seif devarav, he said in conclusion of his words, Zivchei Elokim, it's a sacrifice to Hashem, Ruach Nishbara, a broken spirit. Leiv Nishbar v'nitke, a heart that's broken and crushed, Elokim lo yisivza, Hashem will never despise. Ruach Nishbara, a broken spirit, Pirish Ruach Nemocha, a spirit that feels low from sin. Laman mizeh, we learn from this, ki ha'achna, humility, is me'ikre tshuva, is from the very basics of tshuva and the very core of tshuva. Ki hamizmor hahu, for this song, Yisoid Musad is a fundamental foundation, le'ikre tshuva, for the very basics of, very roots of tshuva. Ubachna, and when a person is humble, Yisratz Adam El Hashem, he finds favor in the eyes of Hashem. Shenemar ve'elzeh abit, Hashem says, this I look towards favorably, El Oni, one who feels poor, Unechei Ruach, and a broken spirit. V'nemar be'inyan, v'amar solu, make way, fanu derech, clear the road. Kichoy amar Rambanisa, so said Hashem, the elevated, the most high and elevated. Sheikhin Ad, who dwells up high. V'kadosh Shmai, Moraim v'kadosh Eshkain, I dwell up high in a place of holiness. V'esdako ushval ruach, but I am with those that are crushed and are of lowly spirit. Lahacha yois ruach shvalm, I will blow in life to those that have a lowly spirit, and to resurrect those whose hearts are crushed. Lamanu, we learn, he keeps on insisting this, we learn ki achna, spirit of humility and of humbleness, may ikre tshuva. V'chein kol parsha, so too, v'chein shar kol parsha, the rest of the subject, midaberes al bali tshuva, on people that try to repent. Kiloi la'olam ariv, Hashem will not always contend. Ba'avoin bitzoi katzafti, Hashem says, for his sin of stealing I was angry. Drachav ra'isi, but I saw his ways, which we'll explain means I saw his contrition and his humbleness. Ve'erpa eyu, and I will cure him. Pirish drachav ra'isi, I saw his way. Bachna, I see that he feels lowly. K'mo shenemar, v'esdake, one who is crushed, ushval ruach, and one who has a lowly spirit. and a bitterness of heart. The spirit before me feels faint. And then I will cure him. What does that mean? I will forgive his sin. Like it says, I will heal him from that which he was backsliding. Vishav, he will repent, v'rafalai. And then v'ancheyu, I will lead him, meaning, ezreyu, I will help the person. A person to let go of sin, of habit, is very hard. But Hashem says if he's feeling lowly and humiliated and broken, ezreyu, I will help him, al aziva sachet, to forsake the sin, v'agbireyu al yitzray, and I will help him to prevail against his Yetzer Hara. And finally, we learn the Rambam about Halach and Shabbos. We know that on Shabbos there are Ovois and Toldos. There are principles and derivatives. There's 39 principal malachas, and each malacha has many Toldos, many derivatives. So the halacha is that for each chatas, in one state of unawareness, for each sin, in one state of unawareness, you have to bring, if you did a b'shogeg, a carbon chatas. So let's say a person forgot that you're not allowed to write on Shabbos. If in one state of unawareness he wrote 5 times, the minimum is 2 letters, so 5 times he wrote 2 letters, he only brings 1 chatas, because you're never chayiv in one state of unawareness more than 1 chatas for an of. Now, if a person wrote and carried and cooked and sewed, so those are 4 different overs, so he would be chayav 4 chatas. So let's see how the Rambam presents it. Echad ha'oisa of me'avas malachas, if a person does one of the principal malachas, let's say he writes, I told them in adultos, or a derivative. So example would be planting is an av. Pruning, which facilitates growth, is a tolda of planting. So whether he does the av, he plants, I told him in atoldas, or he prunes, if he does it b'mezid, willfully, chayiv kurs, the spiritual death. V'imbo edim, if there were witnesses and he had asra, he was warned, then niskel, then he would be stoned. B'shogeg, if he did it unwittingly, he forgot that planting is aser, chayiv chatas kavua, he is chayiv what we call a chatas chaylev, he's chayiv to bring a sin offering. Im kain, if so, asks the Rambam, ma hefresh yesh bein ha'ovois v'atoldos, what's the difference between the av, planting, or the tolda of watering or pruning? Ein b'neim hefresh, there is no difference, they're both equally forbidden. Ela le'inyan ha'korban bilvad, the only difference is as it pertains to the number of karbanas he has to bring. Sha'isa b'shogeg, if a person did it unwittingly, im asa avos harba behelam echad, if he did many principles in one state of unawareness, like I said, he built, he sowed, he planted, he cooked, chayiv chatas achas al kol of v'av. He's chayiv a separate chatas for each av. So he's chayiv 1 chatas for cooking, he's chayiv 1 chatas for carrying, he's chayiv 1 chatas for building. V'im asa av v'toldoisav behelam achad. But, here's the clincher. If he does of and it's tolda, he plants and he waters, he plants and he prunes, since it's under the same category, he's only chayav 1 chatas. Ketzad. Hare shechorash v'zora v'kotzer b'Shabbos be'elam echad. He plowed, he planted, and he harvested in one state of unawareness. That means he forgot that plowing was usher, he forgot that planting was usher, and he forgot that harvesting. So that's 3 different avos. Chayiv shalosh chatos. He's chayiv 3 chatos. Va'afilu also arbam chaser achas bishkag. He forgot all 39 malachas. He forgot that these malachas are not allowed to be done on Shabbos. Chayiv al kol malacha malacha chatas achas. He would then be chayiv 39 chatas. Aval, if he did imtochan, if he ground the chatach hayerek, and he cut a vegetable into tiny pieces, which is a told of grinding. V'shaf l'shayin shel matkas, and he scraped a piece of metal, which is also a tolda of teichen, of grinding. So he did an av and its 2 toldas, behelam echad, in one state of an unawareness, einay chayiv elachatas achas. He's only chayiv 1 sin offering. Shari loy asa el of echad v'toldaisav. It's 1 av with its own toldas, v'kein kol kayotze b'zeh, and any other similar situation. Ha'isa malachas harba me'ein malacha achas behelam echad. If he does many malachas of the same type of malacha in one state of unawareness, eina chayiv ela chatas achas. He's only chayiv 1 chatas. Ketzad harei shezara, he planted seed, v'nata, and he planted a tree, v'hivrich, and he bent a vine into the land, and v'hirkav, and he grafted. So these are all under the category of planting. V'zimer, and he pruned, which facilitates growth, behelam echad, in one state of unawareness. So that's all under the same av. So there he's only chayiv 1 chatas, eina chayiv ela chatas achas, shekulan of echad hein, they're all under the same of, v'chein kol kayotze b'zeh, and so in any case like that, for example, somebody cooked and he baked, so both cooking and baking is under the same av. So if he did them both in one state of unawareness, he would only be chayiv 1 chatas. We want to thank you very, very much for joining us and wish you a wonderful night.